Alright guys, my name is Daniel Beebe, and this is my reflection on my IDT 3600 class. What I'm going to be talking about, I'm going to be talking about how all the things that I did in this class and how it prepared me to be a teacher one day. And through doing this class, I've had a lot of new experiences, a lot of new technology and how technology is used. And of course, as I learned about this new technology, I had to learn how it works, so I obtained knowledge of the information from the technology. The first standard that I'm going to be addressing, the ISTE standards for teachers, is facilitating and inspiring student learning and creativity. And a substandard of that is to promote, support, and model creative and innovative thinking and inventiveness. And I think that I got a good lesson in this from two activities I had to do over the semester. First, I created an instructional comic, which really fostered creativity in students, I think, because I didn't even think of a comic as being something you would incorporate into school, but the fact that students could create their own really was enlightening to me. And also, I created a concept map, and so students can create those as well to guide their thinking and to help them along. The second substandard that I chose was engage students in exploring real-world issues and solving authentic problems using digital tools and resources. And in both of my lesson plans that I created this year, I incorporated internet links into them so that they could use them. And in this case, I did it for our semester's theme, which was water, and they were using those links to find information about different bodies of water in our world. Thirdly, part D of this standard is to model collaborative knowledge construction by engaging and learning with students, colleagues, and others in face-to-face and virtual environments. This is a big thing in field experience because we were actually doing what we were talking about doing. And what we ended up doing overall was we split up the plan and we each took a portion of it. And if one of us was struggling or if needed assistance, we would help out and kind of collaborate in order to get the most out of our students for our hour that we taught. Next, the second standard, that second ISTE standard is design and develop digital age learning experiences and assessments. And the first substandard is to design or adapt relevant learning experiences that incorporate digital tools and resources to promote student learning and creativity. And in another assignment that I did this semester, I created a shortened lesson plan. And by doing this lesson plan, I incorporated an interactive activity into it. And by creating that, I felt that I was more confident afterwards that I could create something from nothing, from scratch. And secondly, under this point, I had to do a presentation, and I used a technique where in the middle of it, so that the students don't get bored, I would have a break and have a game where students would think of something that I'd already taught and ask their classmate and see if they could remember so that they could learn from that. Secondly, under the standard is to develop technology-enriched learning environments that enable all students to pursue their individual curiosities and become active participants in setting their own educational goals, managing their own learning, and assessing their own progress. I was given a lesson in this when I created an interactive activities worksheet where I scoured the internet and looked for different activities that students could use. And I found that overall, these activities were very different. You could find different difficulty, different subjects, and overall, just the aesthetic look of all of them were different. So I felt this really appealed to diverse learners. And because of the difficulty, I felt that basically anyone could get involved in an activity. They just had to find the right one for them. And lastly, under this standard is the substandard customized and personalized learning activities to address students' diverse learning styles, working strategies, and abilities using digital tools and resources. This is something that we had to address in field experience. And what we came up with is that for the students who are struggling, we would just help them out individually with the assigned task of the day. And then for the other students who were ahead of the game, we would ahead of time choose some extra activities and games that they could do. And these were either a modification of the earlier activities, a little bit harder, more advanced, or they were an extra game on the internet that they hadn't seen yet. The third standard is Model Digital Age Work and Learning. This ISTE standard, a substandard, is to demonstrate fluency in technology systems and the transfer of current knowledge to new technologies and situations. And I wasn't all that familiar before this class with PowerPoint presentation hyperlinks. I knew how to put them in there, but I didn't know how to name them properly or how to dim them a certain color afterwards. And I learned that, and I also learned how the internet and PowerPoint can be used to go back and forth easily through these hyperlinks. And not only did I learn how to do them and incorporate them more effectively, I learned how to do it a lot easier and quicker. The second substandard is to collaborate with students, peers, parents, and community members using digital tools and resources to support student success and innovation. And I learned another thing from PowerPoint in the field experience. We were trying to collaborate and create a PowerPoint, but we didn't want the students to get bored. So we ended up deciding to make a sort of a question-answer style where we would ask a question and then we would quickly ask for the answer, and then the students would give it, and then we'd give the answer on the board, and we could go through it really quickly. And we felt that this would, and ultimately it did, we felt that it would really keep the students interested and invested and ready for the next thing and keep their minds sharp. Third substandard under this ISTE standard is to communicate relevant information and ideas effectively to students, parents, and peers using a variety of digital age media and formats. And the answer to this really comes squarely to lecture capture. I had heard, of course, of audio, video, and screen capture before, but the only thing I had done previous to this class was video capture. And of course, I listened to podcasts, but I never created one of my own. And I saw how they could be used in the classroom if students miss class or if there's a snow day or something like that. And a podcast or an audio capture could really help student learning in the end. Video could be used as well, especially you can make a video in a certain environment if you're the teacher and then show it to your students. Or you could do something like Skype where it's live video. And lastly, screen capture. I'd seen these as well, but I didn't realize how easy they were to use. I'm using one right now, for example. And this is especially useful if you want to practice your presentations and watch them yourself and critique. The fourth ISTE standard is to promote and model digital citizenship and responsibility. And the first substandard is advocate, model, and teach safe, legal, and ethical use of digital information and technology, including respect for copyright, intellectual property, and the appropriate documentation of sources. That's a mouthful, but what I got from it was that you have to cite pictures and websites. I usually thought of citing as something you'd only needed for like scholarly text or books, that kind of thing. I didn't really think of pictures as intellectual property and websites. I just thought of them as, well, they're there, so take them. But I learned that you really have to give credit for all these things. So whenever I put picture or a website, a link into a lesson plan, I made sure to say where it was from, give it proper credit. Secondly, the second substandard is to address the diverse needs of all learners by using learner-centered strategies, providing equitable access to appropriate digital tools and resources. And for my lesson plans, a lot of my links that I was using, I tried to make some of them more interesting and appealing, visually appealing, and more fun, and some other ones a little bit more hardcore knowledge, more informative. So I felt that by mixing it up, I could both appeal to diverse learners and just make it more engaging overall to the students. They wouldn't get bored just seeing or one, really complicated article, but they also wouldn't just be seeing pictures. It would be a mix. And lastly, the third standard is to promote and model digital etiquette and responsible social interactions related to the use of technology and information. And we had a discussion about what I would do if the student had accessed an inappropriate site, and I came up with some protocol. First of all, I would punish the student, of course. It would depend on the severity of the site, whether or not the parents needed to get involved or the principal. And I would make sure to address them privately and not embarrass them in front of the entire class. And in the future, I decided to prevent a student from accessing an inappropriate site, I would address the school administration and see if they could afford some kind of internet filter at the school. And I would make sure students knew which sites are okay to visit by putting a site list at the front of the class and notifying students of it before every class and telling them these are sites you can go to, and if it's not on there, ask me first. And lastly, if students are done with their work, I'd make sure they had extra activities just in case that they weren't, off task and clicked on that link, by accident or searched that when they weren't supposed to. And the very last ISTE standard is to engage in professional growth and leadership. And I felt that this class is the first substandard kind of encapsulated. It's participate in local and global learning communities to explore creative applications of technology to improve student learning. And like I said, that's what this class was. I only knew a few basics. Like I knew how to do Microsoft Word and PowerPoint, but none of that really in depth. I wasn't aware of graphic organizers or Kidspiration or Smartboards or Prezi, WebQuest, how mobile learning can be used in the classroom, how coding is used in some schools, and how it can be fun, especially if you think of coding as being boring and just a bunch of words on a screen. But there are really some nice coding activities online I discovered. And I didn't know comics could be used in the schools, much less created by students themselves. And like I said earlier, I didn't know how lecture capture could be used in all three of those facets: video, screen, and audio capture. So this class has really shown me, by getting involved in a technology-based community, how we can improve student learning. Second substandard is to exhibit leadership by demonstrating a vision of technology infusion, participating in shared decision making and community building, and developing the leadership and technology skills of others. And during my field experience, we had to weigh the pros and cons of technology, and we ended up compromising and deciding how much time we would devote to each technology and if the students would be familiar enough to use it in the first place. So there was a lot of collaboration between us and just trying to figure out what was the best option. Seeing as we didn't know these kids, we had to guess, and it ended up going pretty well overall. And last substandard is to evaluate and reflect on current research and professional practice on a regular basis to make effective use of the existing and emerging digital tools and resources in support of student learning. And in one of my discussions, my teacher sent me a link about multimedia learning, and I learned that it was most effective when words and pictures are included rather than just words alone. And this will help my presentation in the future. I'll try to add more visual stuff to complement the text. And overall, I feel I've learned a lot in this class, and I appreciate my teacher, and I hope I can use it all.